Right-wing authoritarianism. This is a type of government where power is held by either a dictator or a small group of people based on right-wing economics and sometimes conservative or reactionary ideals, meaning they want to return to the old ways. Some regimes in this category focus mainly on the economy, supporting private businesses, free markets, and social classes. They are strongly anti-communist but may allow more liberal social policies. Examples are Egypt under Hosni Mubarak, Rwanda under Paul Kagame, or Cuba under Batista. Other right-wing authoritarian regimes center on conservative beliefs and extreme anti-communism. These regimes might be neutral on economic issues but still lean toward capitalist policies. Examples are Zaire under Mobutu Sese Seko or Malawi under Hastings Banda. Some right-wing authoritarian systems are identified by their ultra-conservative, ethno-nationalist and radical anti-communist views, even if they are not always capitalist. These regimes often focus on maintaining strict cultural or religious control. Examples include the Islamic Republic of Iran, Uganda under Idi Amin, and some Catholic governments of the Middle Ages. Left-wing authoritarianism. In this type of government, either a dictator or a small group of people hold power, focusing on state ownership, wealth redistribution, strong market regulation, and economic planning. Unlike the right-wing type, cultural views are less important, as the main focus is the anti-capitalist struggle. Some regimes of this type adopt left-leaning economic policies while holding culturally right-wing views. These governments may implement state controls while allowing some non-socialist actions. Examples are Syria under Adib Shishakli, Libya under Muammar Gaddafi, and Albania under Ramiz Alia. Especially during and after the Cold War, some authoritarian leaders embraced left-wing economic policies but tailored them to their country's needs. These governments were often seen as repressive but not as radical as full communist systems. Examples are Venezuela under Maduro and Chavez or Nicaragua under Daniel Ortega. The most well-known form of left authoritarianism is where the government takes full control of property and production, eliminating private ownership of businesses, land, or factories. These regimes are marked by strong communist propaganda and total state control of the economy. Examples include the Soviet Union under Stalin, China under Mao Zedong, or Poland under Boleslav Bierut. Authoritarian Centrism. This type seeks to appeal to people that hold moderate or centrist political views while suppressing political radicals such as communists and fascists. Sometimes it might try to gain radical support while targeting liberal ideologies. For example, Argentinian ruler Juan Perón pursued policies to gain support from both radicals and centrists while opposing liberal ideas. Most authoritarian centrism can be classified as social authoritarianism, which combines elements of free market economics with state regulations and public services. Notable examples include Brazil under Getúlio Vargas, who persecuted both communists and fascists while promoting state involvement in the economy. Portugal under dictator António Salazar, who opposed communism, socialism, syndicalism, anarchism, liberalism, and anti-colonialism while pushing a conservative, corporatist, nationalistic, and semi-capitalist regime. But also Egypt under Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, whose regime allows capitalist activities but also increases state control. His government manages a mix of private and state sectors while maintaining a strong central authority. Totalitarianism. This is an extreme form of authoritarianism led by a charismatic dictator or a ruling elite who have a fixed worldview. In a totalitarian state, opposition parties are banned and dissent is harshly punished. The state seeks to control every aspect of society, from public life to private life, leaving no room for individual or group opposition. Democracy and civil liberties are rejected, with all socio-political power concentrated in the hands of the dictator. Propaganda is widespread, utilizing both state-controlled and sympathetic private media to influence and control the population. The regime enforces its ideology over the political economy, education system, arts, sciences, and even personal morality, aiming to permeate all facets of life and run society entirely for the state. Fascism. This is an authoritarian and ultranationalist ideology marked by a dictatorial leader and centralized autocracy. It emphasizes militarism, the forcible suppression of opposition, and a belief in a natural social hierarchy. In fascist regimes, individual interests are subordinated to the perceived good of the nation or race, and society and the economy are strongly regimented. Fascism opposes anarchism, democracy, pluralism, egalitarianism, liberalism, socialism, and Marxism. Fascism doesn't see violence as always bad or useless. Instead, it believes that things like imperialism, political violence, and war are ways to renew and strengthen the nation. Fascists typically advocate for a one-party state and a steered economy where the state plays a significant role through economic intervention to achieve national self-sufficiency. Military junta. This is a government led by a committee of military leaders, often emerging from a coup d'etat. It is characterized by military control, either as an oligarchic military dictatorship or via informal control over a civilian government. Military juntas often suppress political opposition and civil liberties, leading to human rights abuses. Some juntas are temporary, aiming to stabilize the country before transitioning to civilian rule, while others establish long-term military dictatorships, which then turns the state into a stratocracy. An example is the brutal regime of the Chilean dictator Augusto Pinochet, who overthrew Salvador Allende's government. His rule was economically right-wing and pushed free market capitalism. It was culturally conservative and highly authoritarian, opposing and persecuting economic leftism and communism, but also political critics. Benevolent dictatorship. It's a form of dictatorship where the leader is perceived as compassionate and focused on improving society. This type of regime may involve strict measures against crime, significant investment in welfare, social progress, and protection of minorities. The dictator's actions are often justified by the intention to enhance societal well-being and remove harmful influences. Possible examples include Mustafa Atatürk, who reformed Turkey with a focus on modernization and secularization; Josip Tito, who led Yugoslavia with market socialist policies aimed at unity, independence, and progress; and Thomas Sankara, who implemented progressive reforms in Burkina Faso, emphasizing self-reliance and social equity. Eco-Authoritarianism, or climate dictatorship, is an authoritarian ideology rooted in environmentalism and technocracy. It holds that global warming is the most critical issue, requiring a strong, centralized government to address it. Proponents argue that a powerful vanguardist state led by a small elite group is necessary to enforce policies that preserve the environment, often favoring technocratic solutions from scientists and engineers. Eco-authoritarians believe that individual liberties must be restricted to combat environmentally destructive behaviors. They critique democratic systems, claiming that only an authoritarian government can ensure environmental sustainability. The ideology often aligns with globalism, with many supporters advocating for a single world government to handle the global climate crisis. Political plurality is seen as incompatible with achieving environmental goals. Dictablanda. It's a type of government that maintains some civil liberties while controlling the political space to prevent real challenges to its power. It often creates the appearance of being soft and benevolent, offering limited rights to avoid harsh surveillance and oppression. The term originated in Spain in 1930 when Damaso Berenguer took over from Miguel Primo de Rivera as the head of the ruling dictatorial government and tried to ease tensions by removing some of the harsher policies. The term was also used to describe Alfredo Baldomir's regime in Uruguay. Soft-Authoritarianism, also known as illiberal democracy, is an ideology where an elected government lacks the core features of a liberal democracy. While it allows for elected representatives, it often involves a dominant party system or a one-party state. In illiberal democracies, pluralism is limited as the ruling party excludes opposition and restricts media coverage of dissenting views. These regimes may persecute those deemed threats, rig electoral results, and disregard constitutional limits and the rule of law in favor of their own interests. They frequently embrace populism or nationalism to justify their actions, presenting themselves as champions of the majority while undermining democratic norms. Absolutism or absolute monarchism advocates for a single monarch, such as a king or queen, with complete, unchallenged rule over the state. This monarch is not bound by any formal rules or laws and often justifies their power through religious or, in modern cases, secular arguments. In absolutism, there is no distinct state or political party. Instead, the state is identified with the individual monarch who holds supreme authority. The focus is not on imposing control over all aspects of social life, but on establishing an overarching authority that must be obeyed without question. Examples include the Ottoman Empire under Sultan Abdul Hamid II, and China under Yuan Shikai in 1912. Theocracy. This form of authoritarianism combines religious rule with authoritarian control, where one or more deities are considered the ultimate ruling authorities. In a theocracy, divine guidance is believed to direct human leaders who manage the government. Religious law typically governs national law, and dissent from the official religion, including secularism, is often banned or restricted. State atheism is an ideology that promotes a godless society by discouraging or suppressing religion, often through government policies. It involves efforts to secularize public life, the promotion of anti-clericalism, and reduce the power of religious institutions. Historically, state atheism is associated with communist, Marxist, Leninist regimes like the Soviet Union, where religion was viewed as a harmful influence, famously referred to as the opium of the masses. These governments placed heavy restrictions on religious practices, sometimes banning religion altogether. State atheism is often seen as the opposite of theocracy, promoting secularism as the guiding principle of governance. Police statism. It's a form of government where power is heavily exercised through the police force. In a police state, the government maintains extreme control over civil society and individual liberties, with little separation between the law and the political power of the leadership. Inhabitants of a police state may face restrictions on movement, free speech, and political expression, all subject to police surveillance. Control is often exerted through secret police operating outside constitutional boundaries. Historical examples include the strict censorship, executions, and autocratic rule in ancient China under King Li of Zhou and Russia under Tsar Ivan the Terrible. More modern instances include the dictatorship of Ferdinand Marcos in the Philippines, and in some accounts also modern-day Russia and Belarus are described as police states. Oligarchy is a political system where power is concentrated in the hands of a small, privileged group. This group may rule directly or indirectly, often through lobbying ahead of state. Oligarchies can be marked by characteristics such as nobility, wealth, fame, or control over various sectors like corporate, religious, political, or military. Historically, oligarchies are seen as coercive, relying on public obedience or oppression to maintain control. Examples include the United States, often viewed as having oligarchic traits due to the concentration of wealth and political influence among a small elite. Russia, after the Soviet Union's dissolution, where a class of oligarchs controls significant economic sectors. Ukraine, where business oligarchs wield substantial political power. Or the Islamic Republic of Iran, sometimes described as a clerical oligarchy due to the dominance of religious leaders. Dengism, also known as socialism with Chinese characteristics, or Xi Jinping thought, is a unique authoritarian ideology characterized by economic pragmatism and nationalism. While economically debatable, it is pro-market, at least in the short term, allowing for capitalist practices under the control and influence of the Chinese Communist Party to stimulate productivity and growth. Strong, centralized control is a given. Dissent is not allowed, civil rights are limited, and strict censorship is enforced. National leaders in China are not freely elected, political opposition is suppressed, and religious activity is tightly controlled by the ruling Communist Party. Direct elections occur only at the local level, with all candidates approved by the CCP. Totalitarian Transhumanism. This refers to a theoretical, dystopian vision where advanced technologies associated with transhumanism, such as genetic engineering, artificial intelligence, brain chips, and cybernetic enhancements, are controlled by an authoritarian or totalitarian regime. In this scenario, the government uses these technologies to exert extreme control over individuals and society, often under the guise of improving humanity or ensuring security. In a totalitarian transhumanist state, the ruling authority might control human evolution by regulating who gets access to technological enhancements or genetic modifications, take charge of reproduction itself and selectively breed and raise children in state orphanages to ensure conformity, monitor and manipulate behavior using advanced surveillance and AI-driven systems, suppress dissent by using brain chips to control thoughts, emotions, or physical abilities, and justify authoritarian rule by claiming that the enhanced population needs strict oversight to avoid chaos or misuse of technology. Subscribe for more videos and check out our channel to learn more about other political ideologies.